I hope you're having a great day. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're ready. We're ready in Tuscaloosa. But Nick Saban just won't, give us the quarterback's name here. I mean, we're dying to know. We want to know, but he just will not give it to us.
He won't, but he did tell you the secret to his success. Now we all know how Alabama's so good because the way they replicate players is internally in his digestive system. That's the last place I would have looked, Ryan. Like, literally the last.
Just pooping 5 stars over here. Hey, you need a linebacker, 6'3", 245? Oh, yeah.
Let me take some of that slack. Here it comes.
Yeah. Here's your 5-star. Hey, here's 2 miles way.
Hey, whoa.
All right, so let me ask you, Barrett, with all the injuries, we talk about Vandarius Cowan discipline off the team. Bam. I don't know. Maybe he's still in Tuscaloosa. I'd find a way to correct some of that if I was somebody over there. But Terrell Lewis, bam, knee injury. Christopher Allen gone. Chris Allen gone with a knee injury as well, surgically repaired. How big of a concern is this for Alabama on the defensive side of the football, and what do you expect?
I mean, just the same thing with Terrell Lewis. It's a big deal. It's not a huge deal, but it's a big deal because, when you start losing players at a place that you consistently lost them last year in the summertime, it does not make you feel good. And Nick Saban, everyone focuses on the not safe for work word that he used on, I guess it was Saturday, but his concerns are real. And if his concerns are real, then fans should be concerned because, Alabama's got depth and they have 5-star for days and Nick Saban poops out 5 stars and that's great. But you can only have 85 guys on the roster. Other guys got to play out of position. So, in the summertime it hurts and, it gets it to a point where you can't afford any attrition during the season, and most likely there will be attrition during the season. That's just how football works. So it's definitely an issue to keep an eye on. Because here's the thing, Ryan, and we talked about this when Terrell Lewis's injury was announced a few months ago. That actually did hurt Alabama last year. The Mississippi State game, the Auburn game, they did have an issue with the linebacker injury. And it just so happens that the landscape of football evolved to a point where they could still get to the playoff and things fixed themselves during bowl practices and everybody was fine. But, it is an issue. You can't survive that many injuries, even at Alabama.
So let me ask you, when you talk about the pressure on the offensive side of the football, you got to make up the difference somewhere. Now there's more pressure on that side of the football to score points and not, do so many 3-and-outs and not struggle. You don't have a J.K. Scott that can flip the field. How much more pressure now is on the offensive side of the football, in your opinion?
Well, for sure. It makes Tua starting more likely because as time goes on, if Alabama realizes that it might need to score points more, not out of desire, but out of necessity, then it's more likely Tua is going to be the starting quarterback. And you might need 20, 25 touchdown passes, and you take 5 or 6 interceptions with it if you still get the touchdown passes. So, I think that it definitely plays a role in the offense and the decision on the quarterback because now, I'm not saying Alabama's defense is gonna fall off a cliff, but instead of the best defense in the country, it might be top 5, it might be top 10. And, if that starts going down, then the offense has to go up. So there is a correlation for sure, and I think specifically for Tua, if there starts to be problems defensively in terms of personnel, the dot to connect after that is that there will be problems on the field in terms of defensive production, which means it might be the better idea to play Tua.
How much is people outside of Tuscaloosa taking note, or outside the Alabama fans and the other 13 other schools are taking note of what this young man has been able to show up on campus? I'm talking about Jalen Waddle. Had a guy tell me that went to the scrimmage that I highly respect. He said, this may be a little bit of a stretch, but it's not much. He said he's on the same level as a receiver in the impact that a guys like Amari Cooper and Julio Jones made as freshmen. Jalen Waddle showed out on Saturday, but really he showed out throughout the month of August. He's even been the guy that Nick Saban refuses to name when he talks about young wide receivers. Jalen Waddle making a huge impact in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard that. I've heard that obviously too. I would pump the brakes on the Amari Cooper Julio Jones thing, just because that's premature. Might be accurate, but still premature. So I've heard the same thing. I don't think outside of the SEC bubble, a lot of people have heard that or recognized that. Because at this point of the year, if you're in the jobs that we do, you pay attention to everybody. But
Sure.
At a lot of other schools, you're kind of just focused on yourself. Like LSU's focused on the quarterback. Georgia's focused on whatever Georgia's on. Florida's looking at their quarterback. So, I don't necessarily think the name has registered regionally in terms of fans. I know locally it has, not just with Alabama, but with Auburn. I think people will find out if that hype that has been sort of building internally is true, come Louisville, because if he's anywhere close to Amari Cooper and Julio Jones, then you combine that with Tua, and that's quite terrifying.
We've had a lot of comments here, and I want to take you to one of your colleagues' article in Chip Patterson, CBSSports.com, and this is something that we've been stuck on here in Tuscaloosa, and it's the comment about the anonymous coaches, and it said if you had the number one recruiting class in the country every year, you'd win like Nick Saban. He shows up at every single game with a better roster than the teams he's playing. If you count cheating and getting the best players in the country as part of running a program, he's the best in the country, and we'll stop there. Your thoughts on that? We've been hung up with that comment all day today.
Well, I knew it was coming because we all put that together, Tip's name on it. But this is the Candid Coaches series that we all put together. We all talked to coaches as much as we possibly could off the record, asked them the same questions, and sent them all to our editors, and then our editors, put the best ones together and created the story, and it just so happened to be under Tip's name. So, I think it's a little short-sighted for anybody, whether it be a coach or a fan, to criticize a coach based on their recruiting prowess, because a coach's responsibility is to recruit. I think it's ridiculous for any coach to accuse any other coach of cheating, because there's no clean program, and that includes Alabama, but it also includes 128 other FBS teams. So I was when I saw the quote in our draft, like when we had the quotes all laid out there, I was surprised that somebody said that. It reeks of jealousy. But I will say this. I think there's a lot of people criticizing us, CBS, for running that because it's salacious. Well, I can say from firsthand experience from coaches that I asked that exact question to, there were two, and especially one, which was awesome against the coach, not Nick Saban, that we didn't use because we did view it as self-serving. Because coaches will tell you whatever they want to tell you in order to further their brand, further their cause, hurt a rival, whatever. The ones that are in there, at least by the people who asked them, were determined to be somewhat genuine, at least in terms of not being self-serving to the coach who responded. So, the idea that that's salacious, yeah, it's salacious, but is it done with a purpose? It's hard to be that 1,000 on this, but we thought that the answer was probably no, but obviously could be wrong.
So, Barrett, and you don't have to explain how you got it quotes and all, but how exactly does this unfold? And I'm sure it's probably different for a lot of coaches, but I mean, do you email them? Do you talk to them? Is his voice recorded? I mean, do they sit down and respond to questions you have? How do we get these type of comments?
Well, first of all, we have a document that we have all of our questions. We asked probably 10 or 15 questions. I think only 5 of them or 6 of them are turning into stories. We've done 2 or 3 already. One of them was beer. One of them, like, who do you have a beer with? Who do you think runs a clean program? There's another 1 or 2 coming up later. So we have our questions. We all know different coaches. We have different connections. So in some instances, it's just shoot a text to the coach. In some instances, it's hey, SIDX. I've got a good relationship with your coach, but I don't have his number. Do you think he'd be up for this? It's, in some cases, hey, we see them at an event or see them at a media function. Hey, you got 2 minutes to answer some fun questions with us anonymously. So it all goes back to something like that. A bunch of us did different things to to get these coaches to answer anonymously. A lot of it is just connections and people we know. And at the end of the day, we have a document that has a list of every coach we've talked to, so we don't sort of hit the same people up. And then we transcribe our quotes to every question, send them in, and then it gets turned out into the Candid Coaches Series.
I got you. But could you imagine Nick Saban if you asked him to do this? I mean, he'd look at you like we're crazy. I mean, it's kind of funny how people assume that, that Nick Saban's this guy that, is personable and this. I mean, I doubt he would respond to your email or anybody else's, to be honest with you.
Well, a lot of coaches did.
Sure,
one
right.
Probably would be surprised that one or two did. And I will say that it did. There's one quote about an overrated coach that I got that is about 10 times more salacious than the one about Saban. And it didn't make it. So that was disappointing. But I understand why it didn't happen.
Gotcha. Barrett, let me go around just for just a couple of minutes. Biggest headline out there outside of Alabama is Urban Meyer. Let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen in your opinion? I know you've been very vocal on the Twitter account, and a lot of your comments I agree with on Urban Meyer. I'm really curious to what you think will come down Wednesday morning.
I think they're going to find a way to suspend him. I think they're going to craft some sort of document with the findings that places enough blame on a bunch of different people to pronounce guilt for a lot of different things, but not enough guilt to warrant dismissal. I think that's going to be on Urban Meyer. I think that's going to be on Gene Smith. I think it's going to be on Shelley Meyer. I think they'll find a way where they feel like they can, at least in terms of what's released in the document, put blame where it needs to be, and rightfully so, but not place enough blame to where you have to fire somebody. That's just my opinion. I think it's an easy way out. I think it's a cheap way out. I think it speaks volumes as to what kind of program Ohio State is, but I also think that's reality.
Barrett, let me go to Georgia here for a couple of minutes. We're keeping our eye on the Dogs because it seems like they're the odds-on favorite to be the competition. If the AP poll is right and all these projections, it's Alabama, Georgia, and Atlanta. I know we're in August and it's something to talk about. What's been the latest coming out there with the Dogs? I know they lose Zamir White on Saturday with an ACL injury. Just your overall analysis. Give me some up-to-date information with Georgia.
Yeah, the Zamir White thing's unfortunate because here's a kid who tore his ACL last October or early November, enrolled early specifically to get surgery by and rehab with Georgia's doctors in the hopes of playing this year, was going to play, at least on special teams, probably in terms of the rotation as well. You hate to see him tear another ACL because Georgia has proven that they get a lot out of all their running backs, and they use a rotation along with Alabama, probably as good as anybody in the country at running back. So you hate that for Zamir White. I think in terms of the quarterback battle, from what I'm hearing, that Jake Fromm just looks tremendous, and the improvement from last year to this year is going to be noticeable. Because I think people forget, he was supposed to redshirt last year. He was the 2B option. They actually convinced Bryce Ramsey last summer to not transfer and be the mop-up guy. Jake just had to go in the first quarter, the first game of the year, because obviously there was a long-term injury to Jacob Eason. So I think he has improved a lot from what I'm hearing, and getting Demetrius Robertson eligible also will help matters.
Final question. Barrett, when you see LSU pop up on the AP Top 25, give me the first reaction when you see the word or the symbol LSU. What was the first thing that went through your mind?
Voters are lazy. Like that's it. Voters are lazy because it's just I don't see it. I don't see how, with an uncertain quarterback situation, an uncertain running back situation, off the field issues that just keep piling up. I don't see it. How South Carolina is not ranked and LSU is a mystery to me.
It was kind of odd. We'll continue to connect with you, Barrett, via the Twitter account. Connect with him at Barrett Sallee on the Twitter account, CBSSports.com. We got more coming, you said, as far as our more series of our anonymous coaches, right? More stuff going to be published here in the next couple of days?
Yeah, we've done 3 of them already, and I think there's only 1 or 2 more. But, some fun stuff. Who do you want to have a beer with? who's clean, should players own the right to their likeness, things like that. And it's funny because we did the Who Do You Want to Have a Beer With one last week. And every coach that I spoke with immediately said Brett Bielema and then corrected himself to say, oh, yeah, he's not in college anymore.